alright, the Froome thing. I just had to stop and talk to a neighbour about the water situation. But it's really disappointing, this Froome thing, because he's such a good racer and he's good to watch. But I mean, if he's cheating, he needs to be punished. So if you fail a drugs test, then he might say, oh, I had a high concentration in my urine or whatever. It doesn't bloody matter. I mean, he's failed a drugs test twice the level amount. You know, he's getting an unfair advantage over the rest of the peloton. Okay, so the unfair advantage that Chris Froome would get over the other competitors is, and it's generally accepted, that a high level of salbutamol, a high level of the asthma drug, will give you a higher oxygen intake and therefore a better sprint capacity. I don't understand why it would only be sprint and not endurance, but they say it's generally a sprint capability advantage. So with this, imagine if you're, you know, in a climbing group and you have people attacking and you have to cover, or you attack yourself. You're sprinting, effectively sprinting when you're attacking out of the group. So that's where Chris Froome would get an advantage by using a high level of this drug. Back to the other bit. And he should be punished for it, which is a ban. I don't know whether they will ban him, but they should. I mean, you know, you wouldn't get away if you're an Olympic swimmer and you test positive to something, you get banned for a certain amount of time. There should be a 9-month, 12-month ban or something on him for this breach. You know, it doesn't matter if he's a Tour de France champion, you know. If you're going to push the rules, you know, asthma and all that sort of stuff, you've got to use it within the legal limits, and he's obviously not within the legal limits, and he should be punished accordingly. So it's very disappointing though, because Froome was a bit of a favourite, you know. He was so good to watch. He was a good racer. He was humble, champion, that sort of thing. Fantastic. But if he's going to get caught for doping, he should have a ban imposed. So there you go. Ban the bomb. Ban the druggies. You know, whatever. Ridiculous. Froome. Just going to water the garden. I'll talk about that. The silver beet and spinach, peas, spring onions, more lettuce, zucchini down there, beautiful zucchinis. Anyway, the thing about Chris Froome is he's failed a drugs test, so now he's a drug cheat. They have a limit on the asthma medication, and he surpassed it by twice the legal limit. So that's drug cheating. I reckon the guys do it all the time, like just push the boundaries to get an unfair advantage over the other people, over the competitors. I mean, if he can open up his airways more than anyone else in the peloton with these drugs and get more oxygen into his lungs, and therefore his muscles, and ride faster, that's an unfair advantage over the rest of the peloton. So basically, he's a drugs cheat. It's a real shame because, you know, he's a good orator, he's a good racer, he's good to watch. He's humble, champion, that sort of thing. So it's a real shame to see someone like that just be tainted as a drugs cheat, you know. But that's what he is. I mean, people are dancing around the fact that the Global Cycling Network boys were saying that, oh, you know, he could prove that it was a higher concentration in his urine or something like that. It's like, well, I'm sorry, you're either pregnant or you're not. And he's cheated. So it's a real shame, but it just, you can't look at him in the same light again because he's been caught. And the thing is, they should strip him of his Vuelta title because he did it illegally. Some of the bans are around 9 months, 12 months, something like that, sometimes even 2 years, but he should be slapped with at least a 9-month ban, I feel, and shouldn't ride in this year's Tour de France or the Giro, any of those races, because he's been caught cheating. And I mean, the way that the UCI are just hopeless with this, I mean, they should have said something on the day he bloody tested positive, not like months later, you know, and give him a chance to sort of clear his name. I mean, you know, you either test positive or you don't test positive, so it's just ridiculous. He's, you know, he's been proven to be a drugs cheat, so I'm sorry, it's a shame. He's a good champion, but if you're cheating, you're cheating. So I mean, there was a few other things. There's a guy on the internet, the vegan cyclist. You know, I watched some of his videos, not all of them, but some of them. And he said, "Oh, I'm an asthmatic, and you know, it's just poor old Chris. He needs it to stay alive." But fucking bullshit. I've never seen Chris Froome use an inhaler. Like, he just doesn't need to use an inhaler. You never see him like riding his bike using an inhaler before the race, during the race, you know, when he's picking up stuff from the team car. So he must be either injecting this stuff or taking tablets. So, you know, I just think it's bullshit. You know, I don't think he's asthmatic. I mean, he might be, but you know, so many of these athletes say, "Oh, I'm asthmatic." I mean, I'd like to go to the doctor and say, "Oh, I'm feeling a bit asthmatic. I'd like to get some of this asthma medication to try out on the bike. It might make me go faster." You know, and that's why they're using it, because they make them go faster. Not that their airways are shutting down. You might get a bit. Well, sometimes I'm riding around here and I feel like the pollen in the air is making the lungs work a bit harder and can't quite get it in the airways. You know, so it does happen, but this is bullshit. You know, these athletes that say, "Oh, I'm an asthmatic, I've got to take asthma medication," right up to the limit and sometimes over the limit that you're allowed to have. It's fucking bullshit, man. What they're doing is they're trying to get an unfair advantage over their competitors. Simple as that. Sorry, Chris. Drugs cheat.